the first. So part of the general information, you have first 5 sessions which are free to attend, which is this week. Yeah, we'll have 3 more sessions, including today. And then we have a dedicated WhatsApp channel where you can actually join to receive updates. Post the session, the recording and the notes can also be accessed through LMS, which is, Graphy, which is our LMS. Yeah, these are our contact numbers. So if you have any queries, yes, you can reach us out. All right. So with this, let us continue from where we left off yesterday. Right? Okay. So we have been learning what is called as, yeah. So we have been learning JavaScript. So which is an ES6 version of the JavaScript. We have understood what is ES6 or ECMAScript 6 and why we are learning, and some of the features, the commonly used features, especially with React, we tend to use them more. So we use a modern syntax to write JavaScript. In that, we have been writing, yeah, we have understood so far few syntaxes like variables using let and cons, arrow functions, destructuring, and rest and spread. Yeah. So far we have understood these 4 concepts. So today we will learn what is called template literals. Yeah. Then we learn what is called as modules in JavaScript. Post that, we will start writing. We will understand a bit about React. Then we write hello world application using React. Yeah. And what it takes to get started with React. Yeah. So if time permits, we will understand what is called JSX, which is a new syntax to write, yeah, HTML inside a JavaScript file. All right. So with that, let's get started. So what is template literals? Yeah, these are the examples that we wrote in order to understand. So let's continue in the same template. Yeah. So I'm using Code Sandbox, an online editor, easy one to get started with. We will also see how to use offline or the local view. All right. So how do we create strings in JavaScript? Yes, strings. We have, couple of syntaxes to create strings. Yeah. So let's see what are those. Okay. So let's say const string. Okay. Yeah. I am React. I am JavaScript. This is JavaScript. JavaScript. Yeah. Now let's say I want to have one string called React. Okay. And then I can actually have I am React. Yeah. So these two are the syntax which have been supported from JavaScript. Yeah. From the initial days. Basically, these two are the literal notation of creating strings in JavaScript. Why literal? So we're able to create them, yeah, without using calling any constructor. You don't have to create an instance of instance. You just assign the value that becomes the string variable. Both single quote, double quote are allowed. And let's say you want double quote inside a single quote, then you can just have double quotes. Let's say you want to print something in double quote. And it is possible to escape. Yeah, we have escape characters within strings. Okay. Now there is a new addition of string representation which came in the years 2000, yeah, 15 syntax, which is called template literals, which is like a template. Okay, let's see how does it look like. Yes. So here we use a new character called backtick. Yeah, character which is just above the tab key. Yeah, next to number one. Yeah, this is called backtick. Okay, so this also represents string. Yeah, this also represents a string. In fact, this is more versatile than these two syntax. The double quote notation, single quote notation. Let's see how. Okay, so this new representation is actually called template literal. Now let's say in a string like this, yeah, I would like to add some variable. Okay, let's say, yeah, const uh, role is equal to developer. Let's see how we can actually concat this existing variable. Let's say I want to, you know, in this particular string, I want to concatenate. Yeah. So if at all I have to do it, then it would be like I am React. Okay. Then I have to say, yeah, I have to append it. Yeah. How about here? Yes. Here also same syntax. Plus is used as a concatenation. Right. How about here? Yeah. So not really required. Yeah. Not really required to just append. So I have a special syntax like dollar curly brace, and within the curly brace I can write within the curly brace I can see. Yeah. So how did we see the outputs? Yes. So we have a console. We have a browser equivalent console. So let's see. You want to see the value of what is there in the template. Okay. So I'm a template string developer. Yeah. Assume I had one more string. Okay. Const. Okay. Language is equal to JavaScript. I would like to add this also. I would like to add language also. Okay. So role is developer, but okay. So I would say here I think it might be, I'll just make it just a form of string. So I am JavaScript, which is nothing but language plus role. Yeah. And what if something else comes in the end? Then I have to put, yeah, let's say, yeah, with HTML. Assume I just want to add additional strings. Okay. I want to concatenate more variables. I want to represent, I want to construct a string by using more variables. Yeah. So this particular single quote, double quote are of same syntax, no change. It's just a difference of quote. Yeah. I would not write the same thing over here. You can take exact equivalent. Yeah. Even if you see I mixed double quote also here with single quote, it works. Yeah. But then this template literal gave a very simple syntax. Yeah. Very simple syntax. You don't have to add too many plus, too many, concatenations. This is called concatenation. All that we can write is we can directly embed in the template these variables. Yeah. So let's say I want to make full string. Yeah. A language. Okay. So for this, I have to prefix dollar. Yeah. I'm JavaScript developer. Okay. Let's say you want to add HTML or you want to add some more string. Okay. With HTML. Yeah. See, it found I am a JavaScript developer with HTML. Yeah. So let's log this console first string. Okay, str. Okay. You'll understand how cumbersome it becomes actually. So I'm now logging. Yeah. I'm now logging the str. If you observe, okay. So I have two variables, JavaScript and developer, but there is no space. How do I add a space? Again, I have to introduce one more concatenation, one space, and then plus, then roll. Yeah. Now compare these two syntax. They're doing the both. I mean, they both are doing same thing. That's what I mean. Yeah. Forget the syntax for now, right? So we can directly embed a lot of things. We can add space how much ever we want. You don't want space. Yes, you can add. Yeah. Okay. So this is what is actually templated. You can embed things. It is not only variables. Let's say you want to call some functions. Yeah. Here you would like to add some expressions. Let's say 1 plus 2 is 3. Okay. Yeah. 3 years experience. Yeah. So you can within this curly brackets, you can write, okay, you can write any expression, any JavaScript expressions that will result into a value. It could be even a function call, right? Okay, so this is the new representation which got introduced, and this syntax, yeah, has some more benefits and some more variations of it. But I would not dwell into all that for now. But in simple, understand, okay, this is a new representation which is written in backticks, and we can embed a lot of things like a template. And the name of this is template literals. All right. Yeah. So we understood what is template literal. So let's move on to one more new concepts. Yeah. Before we get started with React, which is actually modules. Is it called modules? Okay. Now, so when it comes to JavaScript, yeah, we didn't have, or JavaScript did not have its own module concept. It was actually heavily relying on uh, an external module system. What exactly module? What do we call a module? So in simple, let's say you have too many JavaScript files. Yeah, you had too many JavaScript files. For example, about.js, contact.js. Yeah, and then you have assume like some more files. Yeah, so these ones you can actually consider as a module. Individual files we can actually consider as a module. Think of like an equivalent of package. Yeah, or a class file. But now how these files can communicate each other, or how we can share the data between these two files. Not just data, how do we uh, reuse things which are there in about.js file within the contact.js file. Assume in the contact I have a variable called address. Yeah, I have an address which is written. We discussed yesterday it can be of type, pin code, city. It has all that information. Yeah. Now I want this address to be accessible, to be usable, and I would like to share it with about also. How do I access that? Yeah. So this is a page with about, yeah, about us. It's some information. Let's say, yeah, okay. And I will need that variable contact information. So, so for this, in the JavaScript, we didn't have, yeah, a in-house syntax, which is actually provided from official React, official JavaScript specification. And you might have seen if you have observed any JavaScript files before, we are using a syntax like require. For example, yeah, you want to require contact, so you will go, okay, const or where require, contact is equal to require, and then you will mention the name of the file that you would like to import contact. Then everything in this file which is in contact, yeah, is kind of available in this an object, and then you used to use, okay, for example, contact dot, address, right? And this module system is actually, yeah, called as, it is actually from a module system whose name is CommonJS. People call it CJS, CommonJS. CommonJS has this syntax called require. You will notice still many files, you know, relying on this syntax. The old code is still using require.js. And we see this mainly in Node.js also. For example, if you are working on a backend with JavaScript, yeah, this is a olden days syntax. But then in 2015, they came up with their own syntax, yeah, the in-house syntax without relying on an external specification that works with JavaScript. Yeah, that is actually called, you know, the ESM, ECMAScript modules. Is it ECMAScript module system? And that's why if you notice the first file which was there, it was written mjs dot mjs, which is also an extension. They said, if at all you want to use modules, you want to call that file as a module, you can create .mjs. Right? Now let me tell you how the syntax looks like. And this syntax we heavily use in React or in the front end. Okay, nowadays. So we don't use this require syntax at all. So this is considered as a old syntax and to be avoided also. But still, in practice, in many of the olden day files and libraries, you will see this syntax which are not updated to the latest syntax. Now the current state is, yeah, most of the codes are moving away from CommonJS and they are using ESM. And in React, you will not find anywhere using require. Okay, what is that syntax looks like? Okay, so I'll quickly give an example by going into a React application. Yeah. All right. Yes. So, so we have two syntax. Maybe I think let me tell you the syntax and then I'll come business. So we have syntax. We have syntax like exporting, yeah, from a module, and we have importing from a module. Okay. Now let's go to contact itself. Okay. So let's say I want to export address. Yeah. Apart from address, I also have assume like contact number. Yeah. I have a contact number. Okay. 999. Assume. Okay. So now I would like to share address. I want this module, to share address, or let's say it has a function. Okay. Um, get address. Yeah. Get address. So generally, a JavaScript file will have functions and yes, some constants. Yeah. Some data members like this. Now, using the export syntax, I can export, yeah, whatever is to be accessible by outside using this export syntax. Yeah, using this export syntax. And in the export, I can write, okay, address. Let's say I want to make address to be accessible outside. I can call address, comma. I want to provide even get address. I can say get address. Export address and get address. Okay, fine. Now, this is a way we can export. Let's say, how do I import it? The opposite of export is importing it. Now, I don't want to write this request as syntax. I would write, okay, import within again curly bracket. Yeah, within again curly bracket. It is address, comma, get address from dot slash contact. I don't even have to write an extension like okay .js. Yeah, don't even have to write. Yes, so this works with most of the code. Okay, see now it's not it's no more in an object called contact. You can directly access contact address. Yeah, you will understand. Yeah, so this is in terms of the syntax of how actually a module export and module import works. Okay, I have not gone detailed into the modules. There are a lot of things to understand around a module. Okay, yeah. So, so this is one syntax, and this syntax name is also called named export. It's called named export. Now, okay, there exists another kind of export which is also called default export. Let's say export default, then I can write even contact number. Yeah, and okay, now when I do a default, import also changes. The import syntax also change. Now instead of writing in curly bracket, I have to write outside. Instead of writing outside, I have to write outside. Here in the contact, I wrote within the curly bracket. If I'm writing in within curly bracket, or if I'm exporting without the default keyword, then it is importing within the curly brackets. And here I'm exporting with the default, so that's why we can import it. So these two syntax are there: default export and named export. Otherwise, they'll say named import, you know, default import. Yeah. So these two syntax you should be familiar when we start using it. And this syntax also becomes more familiar because we heavily use. We don't write things in one single file. Unlike JavaScript application, we actually work, yeah. So work with multiple files. Yeah. So maybe I can suggest you one reference for module JS. Yeah, I think I'll share the resource. Okay. So where you can study a little bit more about modules. It's not just the export and import syntax. There are few more things that we need to understand in terms of strictness. Yeah. Uh, use strict by default. Yeah, there are different syntax just to write this export itself. And even import also we can have different syntax. It is possible to even change while importing. For example, now I can, so the default import is there, but I can change it to mobile number if I want to import that as a mobile number instead of contact number. Okay, yeah. So this is called the module system. In module, the the fundamental thing is how to export something, how to import something. If you understand, yeah, we can actually export anything. Yeah, it could be a variable, it could be a function. Even I can export even an object also. You're not limited to it. All right. Yeah. Uh, Let me take if there are any questions so far. Okay. Good morning, Man. How are you doing today?
Good morning, sir. I'm doing good.
Yeah. So any questions so far?
Not yet, sir.
Okay. Welcome. So good morning, Fashish. Fashish Ahmad.
Yeah, all good for now. No questions.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Uh, Manoranjan, how are you doing today?
Yeah, yeah. Good. But you are writing something in the default.
Mhm.
Default will say we can access also other page, right?
Yes, we can access it.
Instead of writing inside the curly brace, right?
Yes, yes, yes. And I told you like there are a variety of syntax around this. Even we can write okay, comma, contact number as default. Let's say you don't want to write one more line. One line itself you want to export as a default. And also there is a rule saying that you can only have one default export per file. Only one thing can be exported as default. Rest everything should be named.
Only we can write. Can we write only the contact number, not a
Yeah,
default?
not address and this one.
No, no, we don't write it as default. We can remain.
I mean, you can just write contact number. Yes, possible.
Yeah, possible. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you can export anything as default, but there can be only one default export.
Oh,
But
okay,
yes,
okay. If we write default, then other page also we can write without curly brace, right?
correct, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, for default, irrespective of which syntax you're using, you will have to write it without a curly brackets
Okay, gotcha.
for a default alone. For rest, everything is within this.
Hmm.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions?
No.
No. Good. Okay. We would move on to Nilesh. Good morning. The- unmute.
Hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. This is my first day, so
Yeah,
I have a question like,
mhm.
how can we get previous recordings?
Yeah. So we are actually publishing for first 5 days in the Logic Labs YouTube channel. Okay. So I think I would suggest you to join the WhatsApp community. There we share the link also once the recording is available. So it would be
Yeah,
easy
okay.
to find. Okay. Welcome.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Uh, Pranav, good morning. How are you doing, Pranav?
Good.
Yeah. So any questions so far?
I have no questions.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Welcome you to this React class.
Yeah. Actually, I have one question.
Question. Yeah, Manoj.
Yeah. So can we do the same way in a React? No, sorry, in the TypeScript
Sorry,
as
can you repeat
default.
that?
No,
Uh,
can
y-
we write? Yeah. So as default, like that you are mentioning.
Yes, yes, yes,
Same way we can we write in
yes,
TypeScript?
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So what is TypeScript? So it is a superset of JavaScript. So every syntax which is there in JavaScript is 100% supported, plus the type system.
Mhm.
Yeah, yes, it is there. So all these features for sure it is there. See, TypeScript did not use, I mean, they introduced their some of the feature like union, tuples, interfaces, types,
Yeah.
but for 100% of JavaScript is fully supported in TypeScript.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Uh, right. So with this, we had a refresher now on some of the latest syntax that we use and the features that are mainly required in concern with the React code that we are going to write. At least we should be familiar with these concepts that we have. Okay, so that React code becomes very. There are a lot of features. As I told you, ES6 as ES6. If I say features table, uh, JavaScript. So you get a lot more. There's a bigger list. Let me just share you 6 features. Okay. Yeah. This one, the compatibility table. The compatibility table, which has okay the features which are actually introduced in the S6. So which is like so if you see there was a version called ES5 also, but was not that popular. I mean, was not that highlighted or known to the people. But there were improvements which actually happened part of ES5 also. Yeah, but very few. You see, this was the limited set. For example, they added some extra array methods. They added for each method, reduce method, reduce write method. Yeah. They also added what is called support for JSON. They also added numerical methods. They introduced strict mode in ES5. Okay. But when it comes to ES6, ECMAScript 6, you see, so in terms of syntax itself, they brought in a lot of things. Yeah, REST parameters yesterday we studied. Spread syntax. Okay. Yeah. In terms of for loops, template literals that we just covered, destructuring. Yeah, we discussed the variable bindings like let, const, block scope, arrow functions. Yeah. So this is a big feature set or a big enhancements to the language which has come in the history of JavaScript. And now this table is telling like where all it is supported, fully supported, partially supported, or no support. So you see, I11 which is an older version of browser, doesn't support, and also it is no longer in use. So we are safe. Yeah. So the modern browsers have adopted, whether be it Firefox, Chrome, Edge, everybody is fully supporting all the features. Now, when I go for, let's say, REST parameter, there are 5 features that they have introduced. So all the 5 features, yes, says yes, yes, yes. Yeah. For example, let 16 different varieties of that, okay, or 16 different specifications about how let works. Yeah, let within a for loop, let within a scope, let within a block scope. Now all these features, these browsers have to implement. A bit about like evolution of JavaScript. Yeah, since you are getting now into the JavaScript world, which is a front end, right? So, so generally what happens, this specification is written by the W3C, right? The World Wide Web community. Specifically, there are again a working group called TC39. So they make this specification. They introduce this all this specification. But then how do we say that okay, a particular browser is supported or not? See, each browser has their own separate code. I am using Chrome. Chrome is a different development team. Chrome is a different source code altogether compared to Firefox, Edge, Opera, Safari. They are developed by individual teams. Now, if any new feature is added in the JavaScript, these browser teams have to work in their source code to make sure that feature is supported out of that browser. But you see, it is like multiple teams. If some feature I have to use in my code, it has to be supported at least the modern major browsers. But how does the support happen? They have to understand this implementation, I mean, this functionality. Then they have to modify their code. They have to test it, ship it in the next version of their browser. It's like they do the implementation feature by feature. It's not like everything ES6 at one go. No, right? And JavaScript is just a specification. It is available mainly in browsers, plus the Node.js, which is a server-side environment, right? So, yeah, so in the past or in the future, this is how JavaScript gets upgraded in the browser and how actually new features get introduced. It's up to the individual browser to support that feature, and they all are part of the community, the bigger JavaScript community, TC39. There will be delegates from each of these big companies, small companies, to work on these features. Yeah. And now JavaScript has come up with a release cycle. Like every year, there will be one standard release. This was introduced in 2015, but on 2016, they just want to call it 2016 plus. There also some new features came. See, 2016 some features came, 2016 features came. So they just wanted to call 16 plus. Whatever is coming after 16, 16 plus. You see, there are minimal set of features which are being added to standardize the language, the syntax bit more. 19, yes. 20, yes. Okay. So you see this word ES, ECMAScript, and they also started calling next, ES, next. Yeah. So next is something which is about to come. What do you see? This is where see some of these features everybody started supporting. Yeah. You can see that it is green. Yeah. The browsers, but these are upcoming ones. What is actually coming? right? So once they all support, then the table becomes green. All right. So this is on the evolution. Okay. So every year there will be a new release of JavaScript that you can expect, but with minimal set of features. And in JavaScript, we don't worry much on the version. And you know that JavaScript, we don't have to install much. But when it comes to front-end development, so we need to install, yeah, two software, yeah, to work with. One is Node.js. Okay. We'll talk about this Node.js and the setup, not now. Okay. But we have to install Node.js in our system. So we use LTS, yeah, the long-term support one, and also a stable one. Yeah, we need it to work with React. So I'm thinking I'll make a separate video about explaining what is Node and how to install, as well as setting up React in your local, setting up a React project. But we have not gone that far. Okay, let's hold on to it for some time. Okay, now, so let's move on to another new topic. Yeah, now to slowly get into React. So not React yet. I'm just going to show you, okay, how things can be done. Like let's say I want to make an hello world text appear on a page with just JavaScript without actually hard coding it. So basically, how I can add things dynamically into an HTML page. So JavaScript, yeah, has APIs called DOM APIs. Yeah, the DOM is nothing but document object model. Now we'll understand, okay, how we can use this DOM APIs to create a JavaScript code. And then we will see an equivalent in React as well. How we can create the same thing in React and how does it different? You can do a comparison. Okay, so what do we write? So I have an editor where I just have, yeah, I just put a basic HTML. Okay, so basic HTML. So I'll start off with a script block. Yeah, just to make the comparison easy. Okay, so I have taken, I'm going to take one element called a div and I'll say ID is equal to React. Sorry, result or a root. Okay, let me take it as root. Let me
Sir,
take it as,
please share your screen.
oops, sorry. Oh, sorry, I forgot to share. Stop sharing. Yeah, I'm on a VS Code. I think I'll share my entire screen. Just a second. Okay, let me know if you can see it.
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah, visible. Fine. Now, so we have a script. I said, yes, I was adding an HTML. I started with a blank HTML. Let me add a script tag. If I am working on a JavaScript code, so I'll have a script. Yeah, just to make the comparison easy, let me add one div with ID is equal to root. So now this would be the root element for the the DOM element which I'm going to create. Let's say I would like to create an H1 element using JavaScript dynamically, right? How do we do it? So DOM has this object called document and it has a method called create element. Is it? It has a method called create element. Assume I would like to create H1, then I just mention H1. Now this is going to create me an H1 element. Now for this H1, we can also say H1 dot inner HTML if I have to, or inner text if I have to text, okay, if I have to put some text. inside the tag. So it's okay, JavaScript. Now this happens to be the creation of that element. Let's say I want to provide some properties to that element, attributes, some attribute. In JavaScript, the code is, we can write something like class name. I can provide a class name called heading. Yeah, I'm sure many of you have not gone into the DOM and this concept, but this is a concept which is there in HTML. Okay, so let's say if I have to work pure JavaScript, HTML, CSS, okay, this is how people start writing. Okay, so this is how we create elements. Let's say I want to introduce something dynamically. I'm just showing you how we can make use of the same APIs and create an element. Yeah, and I think for sure you will be familiar with, you know, things like document.getElement by ID. These methods. Yeah, this is all part of the DOM specification of JavaScript. So get element by ID, I can get the reference of an element using its ID value. So I'll say the ID value of one element which I want to get the reference is root. The ID value of one of the element I want to get is your root. So I'm going to get this element which is called, let's call it a root element, where I want to display this. Now, so I created an element, yeah, created an element, and I would like to display this element h1 onto the page. Before that, let me see what is it, what is output I'm getting it, so that you make a difference. So I'm using a plugin called Live Server, but it will work without any server also. Let me also take uh, just a second. Yeah, let me also take inspector. Okay, so inspect to show you okay what is the JavaScript code and all. But when it comes to the program, yes, program is not outputting anything. Not even in div, I don't have anything to output. Now let me add to the root element using another method called append child. Using okay append child. Append child, I'll say h1. Created a new element. I'm trying to get, I've got the reference of an existing element. To that, I'm adding, yeah, I'm adding this new child. Now let's see what is output that I can see it. Says it's a JavaScript. Which is this element? H1 element. How did I create? Using JavaScript. Okay, let's see how does it going to look like. Where is it displayed? Yeah. So this is called inspect panel in browser. Yeah. So you see H1 got added and under this root element called div. Okay. So consider this as an hello world using purely JavaScript. Yeah. With not much hard coded in the JavaScript. I mean the HTML itself. Now let us learn like how to have an equivalent in React. How do we make a similar application using React? Okay. So now let me move on. Okay, let's open another file. Or I would say index. I'll rename this to JS. Index this to JS. Right. So new file index.html. Yes. So again, I use Emmet. There is an extension called Emmet, which comes by default and which actually gives you some template, some boilerplate code that you have to write and again can be easily pre-filled with this Emmet. Here also we work with script. We work with script. And here, okay, so we need React. right? So what is React? It's actually a library. Yeah, we'll have some introduction about what is React. Let's see the program output today. Okay, so for React to work, I need to find its, I need to load it as a library. How do we load a library in JavaScript? Yeah, so it is via script tag. Okay, so React has one way to load or one way to get started. Yeah, one way to get started, which is called CDN. So if I go to the React website, I have CDN links. Okay, CDN links are like, they're given. Okay, you can take this CDN link, copy paste them, and you can actually load them in your HTML. So there are two libraries. One is React itself, and it's a development version. React DOM, again, that's also a development version. Now we have to load both of them. This is how we load it. Just a script tag added in the page. Now let's check if React is loaded properly or not. How? I can look for one, okay, I can look for one object like React. Can check whether this is available or not. Let's see. Okay, I'll now it's available. Let me go to the browser console and see where is my console. Yeah, here it is a console. See that? I logged from line number 18. What is React? Or even I can access again React if you want. So React is this much. Yeah. So this object has, okay, this object has this many things. Now in the React has a whole concept. We have to understand these methods. We have to understand some of these properties. And this is the implementation of React. So what we see is this much. So if we know each of these words and we know what is the purpose, I think that is what is React. Yeah. So it works on JavaScript. So most of the JavaScript code is only what we write in React. And we are able to successfully load using CDN links. So let's continue with your Hello World application. Yeah. Similar to the previous example, let's also add an ID element. Okay. Let's also add an ID element with, okay, root. Now let's display an hello world or it's React using a React code. Okay. Let's do it using React code. Okay. Now we have React. Okay. So in the API, if you see the API, we have create element. If it says a JavaScript, we use document.createElement. If it's React, then we use react.createElement. What is the first one? It says you mention the type of the element you want to create. The second says it's an optional, but it's an object. In our case, yeah, so we want to pass class name to that element. Okay, class name header. Then, yeah, the last parameter is actually children. Okay, in our case, it is actually a string that we write. Okay, hello, it's React. Now with this API, we are able to create an element called h1, just we created in the previous example. Yeah, it just formatted. Okay, I wrote it in one single line, but as and when I save, it just gets formatted to say, yeah, don't write a lengthy line, you can split it into multiple lines. right? So now we have h1. Yeah, I want to display this onto the existing DOM. So I have to get the reference of existing element. Get element by ID, which is called root. So I have, okay, an element. Okay, let's say an element. Okay, I'll say root. I'll say root element. So this is the purpose of having React, or why we loaded React. But then we have another library called DOM, which actually works with React DOM. So we need that library also. Okay, we can access it using React DOM. That particular library we can access using React DOM. Yeah. So this has a method called create root. What is it? It has a method called create root. To that, we need to pass an element where we want to make a root for the new DOM that we are creating with React. Fine, I'll explain this, but let me complete the uh, program, and then you think you will understand. So let's say root dot render. I would like to say root dot render. So in the root element, yeah, I'm making it as, yeah, I think I'll have to create const root. I have to assign this to root, and this root dot render. Here I can mention h1. Okay, can mention h1. Do you see now the hello or the example using React syntax instead of the JavaScript syntax like create element? And now if I inspect what is this element, where is it element? It is exactly in the same place as we saw in JavaScript. Yes, it is having the class header. Yes, it has this text. Hello, it's React, and it's an h1 element. You would understand? Yeah. So let me bring up that index.js example also. Index.js HTML to JavaScript. If you inspect, yes, it was h1. Class is equal to heading. Yeah. And we see that now the text that we added, yes, we rendered in the same root element as div id is equal to root. Its equivalent is here. Let us compare the program. Okay. So let's split this code and split the screen. So can do a comparison. So till this part, yeah, it was same. Till adding line number 9, they're exact. It is React program. So I have to make use of React library. So React library comes with a lot of methods. I have to load these two React libraries. After that, code looks somewhat similar. Here we are using document.createElement. Here we are using react.createElement. Again, this created, we said h1 type here to the create element. Yes, here also we said h1. Yeah, we did not give it as an object, but we gave in individual properties. Now text has some property, class name has property. But React element has a syntax. They made it simple. So wherein within one API itself, you can provide all the information. So, so this is actually React. So, and this is a display part. Don't worry much on this. Okay. I think I'll explain it. But in terms of creation, in terms of how different it is from creating, yeah. So this is what is actually it is. So in a way, so React is actually a library which has, you know, APIs, yeah, a DOM equivalent APIs to create a UI. But it is not just that actually. So it has an additional thing called React DOM. Why did we not use, actual DOM? You could have done root dot append child. No, we didn't do it like that. Why? Because React has an other thing called React DOM. So what is DOM? It's a document object model. But what is React DOM? React has its own version of the DOM. Yeah, React has its own version of the DOM, which is different from the real DOM. So we have to make use of that particular DOM function in order to create and render our element into the React DOM. Yeah. So this is that hello world example. So tomorrow we'll understand more on how to create more elements, what is the syntax. Yeah. And one thing, not to, don't get scared. We won't be writing this syntax. Okay. We won't be writing that syntax very often. And we, as a dev, we have an alternative syntax, which is actually called JSX, what I mentioned. Yeah. So we are going to write the same H1 in React itself using create element itself, a very simple syntax like const h1 is equals to, okay, h1 hello with React. So just equivalent of HTML, and that too within the JavaScript. And this syntax is called JSX. Fine. I think I'll stop here. Okay. So we will understand more of this syntax tomorrow, and I will tell you how to move away from this syntax to the JSX. Okay, how it starts working, so that you have less JavaScript to create element and how cumbersome it becomes even to create a simple element like UL, LI. All right, so let's stop here. I think we are, yeah. So that is it for today. Maybe I'll take up questions if you guys have anything. And feel free to write in chat as and when you get questions so that we can, address. Okay. Now, anyone has a question? I would like to wait. I'll see in the chat, or maybe you can unmute and ask yourself. And don't worry, we won't be doing much of DOM manipulation also. We will write only one line document.get element by ID. We are not going to use that syntax also at all. Just one liner will be there. We don't have to go back to the DOM. If it was required, I would have actually covered part of the refresher. So it would be a pure functional code is what we write in React. And yes, if you can write functions in other language, you understand HTML and CSS, and yeah, familiar with the ES6 concept that I mentioned, I think that should be sufficient for you to get started with React. All right, so I don't see anything coming. Yeah, thank you all for joining. Yeah, we'll meet you all tomorrow. Yeah, have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.